Today, we're diving into one of the most incredible stories ever told. It's a high-stakes political drama full of incredible courage and a reversal of fortune so stunning you'd think it was fiction. But it all happened, right in the heart of ancient Persia. This is the story from the Book of Esther.
And the whole thing, the entire story pivots on this one wild question. How in the world did a king's sleepless night end up saving an entire people from being wiped off the face of the earth? Seriously, how does that even happen? So let's get into it and see how this all unfolded.
All right, so first you've got to picture the setting. We're in the Persian Empire, which at the time was an absolute superpower. It was ruled by King Ahasuerus, who you probably know better by his Greek name, Xerxes. And, this place was huge, stretching all the way from India over to Ethiopia.
And get this, he ruled over 127 different provinces. That's not just a country. That's like most of the known world at the time. And whatever this guy said, well, that was the law. Period. No questions asked.
Okay, Section 1, A Prideful King's Decree. This is all about how wounded egos can mobilize the machinery of state, and you're about to see just how dangerous that can be. The whole story really kicks off in this super tense political world where one powerful guy's bad mood could spell disaster for millions.
So the king, he throws this absolutely insane party. We're talking a 180-day feast. That's 6 months. He's likely doing it to hype up his commanders for his big invasion of Greece, which, spoiler alert, didn't go so well. Anyway, at the height of the party, he's had a bit too much to drink, and he orders his wife, Queen Vashti, to come out and basically be paraded around. And she says no, in front of everyone. You can just imagine. The king is humiliated, and he just explodes with rage. And right here, we see this really scary pattern start to emerge. The king is mad at one person, his wife Vashti. But what does he do? He makes a law to punish all women in the empire, basically saying every man is the boss of his own house. And this idea, punishing a whole group for the actions of one person, it sets a terrible precedent. A precedent that his right-hand man, Haman, is paying very close attention to. So, let's meet the bad guy, Haman. He's the king's top advisor, and he's got a serious ego problem. He expects everyone to bow down to him. But this one guy, Mordecai, who is Jewish, he just won't do it. And just like the king with Vashti, Haman's pride is completely wounded. But his reaction is way, way worse. He doesn't just want to punish Mordecai. Nope. He decides he's going to wipe out all of Mordecai's people. Every single Jewish person in the entire empire. And believe it or not, Haman actually gets the king to sign off on this. He takes the king's special signet ring and stamps the decree, which means it can never be taken back. And it's official. On a specific day, the 13th of Adar, it's open season on all Jewish people. They're to be completely destroyed. The capital city, Susa, is in total uproar. People are terrified, confused. And what are the king and Haman doing? They're sitting down to have a drink. Chilling, right? All right, next up, a queen's dangerous gamble and the rise of an unlikely hero. But just when things look their absolute darkest, a resistance starts to form in the one place nobody would expect. And this is where we meet our heroes, Esther and Mordecai, who are about to pull off one of the riskiest plans in history. So, remember how the king got rid of Queen Vashti? Well, his new queen is a young woman named Esther. And here's the twist. She's Jewish. In fact, she's Mordecai's cousin. But, and this is huge, nobody knows. She's kept her identity a total secret. So Mordecai goes to her, pleading for her to do something, but the risk is insane. There's a law. You don't just walk in on the king. If you go see him without being invited, you're executed on the spot. The only thing that can save you is if he holds out his golden scepter to you. And Mordecai, knowing the danger, sends her this absolutely legendary message. He basically says, look, don't think you're safe just because you're in the palace. If you do nothing, help will come from somewhere else, but you and your family will be destroyed. And then he hits her with this powerful, powerful idea. Who knows? Maybe you became queen for this exact moment, for such a time as this. Just imagine hearing that. Esther asks all the Jews in the city to fast with her for 3 days. And then she makes her choice. She fully accepts that this could be the end for her. And she sends back this message, just 5 words, but so incredibly brave. If I perish, I perish. Okay, so this brings us to the king's sleepless night, or when coincidences start to look a lot like providence. This right here,
This is the pivot point for the whole story. Haman thinks he has everything lined up, but then a bunch of what seems like totally random stuff starts happening, and it changes everything. You have to see how this all connects. It's like a perfect storm of coincidences. First, the king can't sleep. We've all been there, right? So what does he do? He asks someone to read him the royal records. Probably the most boring book in the entire kingdom, guaranteed to put anyone to sleep. But instead, they find something. A forgotten story of loyalty. And then, at that exact moment, who shows up at the palace? Haman. You can't make this timing up. So what was in the records? What did they find? Turns out, years ago, our guy Mordecai had overheard 2 guards plotting to kill the king. He reported it, saved the king's life, and then, nothing. It was written down, but he never got a reward, never even got a thank you. The king hears this, and he's like, wait, what? We never did anything for this guy? He decides right then and there, in the middle of the night, that he's got to make this right. And here we go. The great ironic reversal. This is where a villain gets totally wrecked by his own pride. This is the moment we've been building towards. It is one of the most satisfying, perfectly ironic twists you will ever hear. Haman's arrogance is about to become his own undoing. Remember, Haman showed up at the palace for a reason. He literally just built a giant 75-foot gallows, and he's there to ask the king for permission to hang Mordecai on it. But he doesn't even get a word out before the king hits him with a question. Hey, Haman, what should we do for someone the king really, really wants to honor? And Haman, his ego is so huge, he just can't imagine the king would be talking about anyone else. He literally thinks to himself, who would the king want to honor more than me? So, thinking it's all for him, Haman lays out this incredible parade. He says, oh, you should dress the guy in your own royal robes, put him on your own horse, and have a top official lead him through the city shouting, this is what the king does for the one he honors. The king thinks this is a fantastic idea, and he says, great, go get the robes and the horse, and do all of that for Mordecai the Jew. Can you just imagine the look on Haman's face? The man he was about to ask permission to hang, he now has to lead him in a victory parade. It's just devastatingly perfect. I mean, look at how fast this all happens. The speed of his downfall is just breathtaking. It all goes down in less than 24 hours. He wakes up in the morning, plotting to execute Mordecai. By noon, he's basically Mordecai's parade marshal. Then that night, he goes to Esther's dinner party where she points him out as the villain trying to kill her and all her people. And before he goes to bed, he's executed on the very gallows he built for his enemy? Wow. Okay, final section. From mourning to celebration and the origin of a joyful feast. So Haman is gone, that's great for Esther and Mordecai. But there's still one massive problem. That first decree, the one that says all the Jews are to be annihilated, it's still active. It's still the law. And here's the thing about Persian law. Once it's sealed with the king's ring, you can't undo it. Ever. So Esther and Mordecai come up with this genius workaround. They can't cancel the first law, so they write a second one. And this new law, also sealed by the king, gives the Jewish people the right to arm themselves and fight back against anyone who comes to attack them on that day. It's a brilliant move. So when the 13th of Adar finally arrives, the day that was supposed to be their destruction, they are ready. They defend themselves, they fight back, and they win. But here's a really important detail. Look at the numbers. They defeated their enemies, but in every single instance, the text makes a point of saying they didn't take any plunder. Nothing. This wasn't about getting rich or powerful, this was purely about survival. And to make sure this incredible turnaround is never forgotten, the Jewish people create a new holiday, a festival. They call it Purim. And that name comes from the word pur, which means the lot, like rolling dice. Why? Because that's how Haman chose the day for their destruction, by casting lots. So they take the very thing he used to plan their doom and turn it into the name of their celebration. It's the ultimate reversal. And that leaves us with the most fascinating puzzle in the entire book. You see, the name of God is not mentioned one single time in the whole story. Not once. So you have to ask yourself, was this whole thing just a massive, unbelievable stroke of luck? You know, the right queen at the right time, a king with a bout of insomnia, a dusty old record book, just a whole series of happy accidents? Or was there something else going on behind the scenes? A hidden hand, quietly moving all the pieces into place? Where do you draw the line between pure coincidence and destiny? It's something to think about.